3 searches, 229,000 square kilometers of seabed mapped, over $300 million spent, and investigators now believe all of it was in the wrong place. Not because the technology failed, not because the teams didn't try, because the very first assumption made in 2014 was wrong. What you're about to see is the single assumption that sent every search team to the wrong location. Why the ghost flight theory placed the wreckage close to the 7th arc when the plane may have glided 120 kilometers further, and how new data, combining satellite pings with global radio signals, finally identified where the search should have been focused from the beginning. March 8, 2014. Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 disappeared from radar screens while en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. 239 people on board. No distress call, no wreckage, no explanation. The investigation that followed produced one central theory about what happened in the final hours: the ghost flight theory. Here is what investigators assumed. At some point during the flight, everyone on board became incapacitated. The pilots, the passengers, everyone. The aircraft continued flying on autopilot. No human input, no course corrections, just a plane flying itself through the night until the fuel ran out. When the engines stopped, the aircraft entered a high-speed spiral descent, nearly vertical, extremely fast. Investigators calculated that a plane falling this way would have impacted the ocean very close to the 7th arc. The 7th arc is the final satellite handshake ring, the last known position of the aircraft based on satellite ping data. A ghost flight ending in a spiral dive would have kept the wreckage within a tight radius of that arc. That assumption shaped every search that followed. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau used it to define the first search zone. 120,000 square kilometers searched between 2014 and 2017. Nothing found. Ocean Infinity used it in 2018. 112,000 square kilometers searched in 90 days. Nothing found. The same assumption, the same zone, the same result. But here is what that assumption required to be true. It required that no pilot was conscious or capable of controlling the aircraft in its final moments. It required a specific, violent end, and it placed the wreckage in a location that 3 separate search operations failed to find. At some point, the assumption has to be questioned. If you want MH370 analysis based on evidence, not speculation, hit subscribe. Every update, every development, covered the moment it happens. Jean-Luc Marchand and Patrick Blely are French aviation experts. Their analysis introduced a fundamentally different theory about MH370's final moments: controlled ditching. Here is what that theory proposes. The aircraft did not spiral into the sea. A pilot was conscious and in control of the aircraft until the end. When the fuel ran out, instead of entering a violent spiral, the aircraft was glided, manually, deliberately. A powered off-glide from an Airbus A377 can cover significant distance. Depending on altitude and conditions, the aircraft could have traveled up to 120 kilometers beyond the fuel exhaustion point. 120 kilometers. That is the distance between the original search zone and where controlled ditching analysis suggests the wreckage actually is. That gap explains everything. 3 search teams, 229,000 square kilometers mapped. None of it covered the controlled ditching zone, because none of the searches accounted for the possibility of an active pilot in the final moments. The cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder have never been found. Without them, we cannot know with certainty what happened in that cockpit. But the physical evidence supports controlled ditching over ghost flight in one critical way: the debris. Pieces of MH370 washed ashore on Reunion Island, Madagascar, and Tanzania. Scientists at CSIRO and the University of Western Australia ran drift models. They worked backward. Using ocean current data, wind patterns, and known debris drift rates, they calculated where those pieces came from. The models pointed to a location that is consistent with controlled ditching, further from the RRC, further south, in a zone that was never searched. The second piece of evidence challenging the original search zone comes from an unexpected source: radio signals. WSPR stands for Weak Signal Propagation Reporter. It is a global network of amateur radio operators who transmit and receive low-power signals around the world. These signals travel thousands of kilometers. When an aircraft passes through the path of a WSPR signal, it creates a measurable disturbance, a digital tripwire. Richard Godfrey, an independent MH370 researcher, analyzed archived WSPR data from the night of March 8, 2014. His analysis identified a series of signal anomalies that are consistent with a large aircraft traveling a specific flight path. That path diverges from the original satellite-based route. It points further north, further west, and it intersects with the seventh arc at a different point than previous searches assumed. When Godfrey stacked the WSPR analysis on top of the existing satellite ping data, the overlap pointed to a prime crash location: 29.128 degrees south, 99.934 degrees east, a specific coordinate, outside the original search zone, outside the 2018 Ocean Infinity search zone, in a corridor that has never been examined. The 2026 search, conducted by Armada 8605, targeted this zone specifically: the Blely Marchand area, the controlled ditching corridor, the WSPR intersection. 7,236 square kilometers scanned. Still no wreckage found, but 48% of the target zone is now eliminated. The remaining 52% has never been searched. This investigation is still active. Subscribe to follow every development as the search continues. There is a third reason the original searchers may have missed the wreckage, even if they were searching in the right area. The ocean floor in the southern Indian Ocean is not flat. It is one of the most geologically complex regions on Earth. Deep canyons, seamounts rising thousands of meters from the seabed, abyssal plains fractured by ridges and valleys. When sonar equipment sends signals downward, the terrain creates shadows, areas that the sonar beam cannot reach, areas where a debris field could exist without being detected. Ocean Infinity acknowledged after the 2018 search that some areas may have been missed due to terrain complexity. The 2026 operation addressed this directly. Armada 8605 deployed a new generation of Hugin 6000 autonomous underwater vehicles. These AUVs operate at 4,400 meters depth. They carry higher resolution sonar than any previous search equipment used in this operation. They were specifically deployed to fill in the data gaps left by previous searches: the sonar shadows, the canyon floors, the terrain features that may have hidden the wreckage from earlier equipment. Even with this technology, difficult terrain means some areas require multiple passes. The January 14 record of 870 square kilometers in 24 hours represents optimal conditions. Rougher terrain days produced significantly lower coverage. The seabed in this region does not make searching easy. Here is the current state of the search. Phase 3 scanned 7,236 square kilometers between December 30th, 2025 and January 24th, 2026. The Blely Marchand zone was the primary target. No wreckage was found. Armada 8605 departed Australian waters on February 4th. It is currently en route to Pago Pago, American Samoa. Expected arrival, February 23rd. Ocean Infinity has not quit. The contract allows 55 days of intermittent searching. Approximately 25 days remain. But the southern Indian Ocean weather window closes in April. The vessel is now 20 days away in transit. The realistic probability of a return this season is low. The search will likely pause until late 2026 at the earliest, possibly 2027. But the picture is clearer now than it has ever been. The ghost flight assumption sent 3 search teams to the wrong place for 12 years. Controlled ditching analysis identified a 120-kilometer gap nobody accounted for. WSPR Data provided an independent flight path that supported the new search zone. Higher resolution. A UV technology addressed the sonar blind spots. For the first time, the search is targeting the right area based on converging independent evidence. The remaining 52% of the target zone has never been examined. That is where the answers are most likely to be. The question is whether Ocean Infinity will have the time, the resources, and the contract authorization to go back and look. 12 years of searching in the wrong place. Now they know where to look. Subscribe to be here when they go back, because the search is not over. The answer is in that remaining 52%.